My girlfriend said I don't want drama on my day when I asked about her graduation ceremony, so I left. That was a month ago, and she just showed up at my job wearing my old hoodie. I am Landon, 29, been with my girlfriend Sam for 3.5 years. She is 26, just finished her psychology degree at UT Austin. I work as a mechanical engineer here in town. We moved in together about 2 years ago, and I thought we were solid. Like, really solid. Sam's always been the social one between us. I am more of the quiet type, grew up working class, and I have always believed that love is about showing up for each other, you know? Not making everything complicated. When Sam started her final year, things got stressful for her financially. Her parents helped some, but not enough. So I stepped up. I covered part of her rent so she could focus on school instead of working. When her car broke down last spring, I paid for the repairs because I wanted her to graduate without stress. I know how this sounds, but I didn't do it to control her or anything. I did it because I loved her and wanted to see her succeed. That is what you do for someone you are planning a future with. But these last few months, something changed. Sam started staying out late for what she called study groups. She had dressed differently when she went out, and she was always on her phone. Texting constantly. Even when we were watching movies or having dinner, she would be looking at her screen with this little smile I didn't recognize. I told myself it was just graduation stress. People get weird when they are about to finish school, right? I figured once she graduated, things would go back to normal. I was even planning to surprise her after the ceremony with something special. I had been saving up for a down payment on a new apartment for us. Somewhere nicer. Somewhere we could really start our life together. Then came that dinner conversation that changed everything. We were sitting at our kitchen table, just eating takeout, and I brought up her graduation ceremony. I asked about tickets, whether her parents had booked their flights yet, what time I should plan to be there. Normal boyfriend stuff. Sam stopped eating. She wouldn't look at me. She just stared down at her food and said really quietly, "I don't think it is a good idea for you to come." I thought I misheard her. I said, "What do you mean?" That is when she looked up and said it. "It will be awkward with Mark there. We are still friends, and I don't want drama." The room went completely silent. I am sitting there, fork halfway to my mouth, trying to process what she just said. Mark is her ex from freshman year. They dated for like 6 months before we got together. I knew they still talked occasionally, but I trusted Sam. I thought I was being the mature boyfriend by not making a big deal about it. I asked if she was serious. She rolled her eyes like I was the one being unreasonable and said, "It is my day, Landon. I don't want drama." Here is the thing that got me. It wasn't just what she said. It was how she said it. Like I was some kind of inconvenience. Like 3.5 years meant nothing. Like all those times I supported her. All those months I helped her through school. All of that just disappeared because her ex might feel uncomfortable. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just looked at her for a long moment and said, "Got it. You deserve a drama-free day." Then I stood up, grabbed my coat, and left. I spent that night at my friend Eli's place. He is my coworker, and basically my only close friend here. When I told him what happened, he just shook his head and said, "Man, that is cold," but he didn't try to talk me into going back or anything. He just let me crash on his couch and process. The next morning, I went back to the apartment while Sam was at class. I packed a duffel bag with enough stuff for a few weeks. I left my key on the kitchen counter next to a note that just said, "Hope your graduation goes well." That was it. No big dramatic scene. No begging or demanding explanations. I just left. Now, here is where it gets complicated, and I am starting to think I was way more naive than I wanted to admit. Over the next few days, Sam started texting me. Not apologetic texts, angry ones. "You are being ridiculous. You always make things about you. It is literally just one day. I cannot believe you are this immature." She never once acknowledged why I might be hurt. She never explained why Mark's comfort mattered more than mine. She just kept acting like I was the problem for having feelings about being excluded from one of the biggest days of her life. I didn't reply to any of her messages. Not one. Graduation day came. I worked overtime instead of going. Later that evening, I made the mistake of checking social media. There was Sam in her cap and gown, and there was Mark with his arm around her waist. The caption said, couldn't have done it without you with a heart emoji. That is when it really hit me. This wasn't about avoiding drama. This was about her wanting to be with him instead of me. On her graduation day, the day I should have been there celebrating with her, she chose him. I blocked her number that night, deleted all our photos, started running after work to deal with the anger and hurt. Because I was angry, don't get me wrong, but I was also something else I didn't expect to feel. I was relieved. For months, I had been making excuses for her behavior, telling myself it was just stress, just school, just temporary. But sitting there looking at that photo, I realized I had been dating someone who didn't respect me enough to include me in her biggest moments. Someone who would rather hurt me than have an awkward conversation with her ex. That is when I knew I had made the right choice by walking away. But apparently, the story doesn't end there, because yesterday Sam showed up at my office building. I was leaving work, walking to my car when I heard someone call my name. I turned around, and there she was, looking like she hadn't slept in weeks, wearing my old UT hoodie that I had forgotten to pack when I left. She looked at me with these desperate eyes and said, "We need to talk. I am supposed to meet her for coffee tomorrow." Part of me thinks I should just keep walking and not look back, but part of me needs to know what she could possibly have to say after a month of silence. So Reddit, what do you think? Am I crazy for even considering hearing her out? Or should I just keep walking? Update 1 first. Let me say thank you for all the comments on my original post. Reading your perspectives really helped me see the situation more clearly. A lot of you called out that her behavior was manipulative, and honestly, that word kept echoing in my head, so I did meet her for coffee, against my better judgment. But I needed closure, and I thought maybe she would finally explain herself, or at least apologize properly. She didn't. Sam showed up 20 minutes late, which should have been my first clue about how this was going to go. She sat down across from me and immediately launched into this whole speech about how she had been processing everything and how she realized she made some mistakes. Notice she said mistakes, plural, but not mistake. Like this was all just a series of little oopsies instead of a fundamental betrayal of our relationship. She told me that Mark had been pursuing her during her final semester, and she had been trying to handle it delicately because they had to work together on their senior project. She said she didn't want to create drama in her program, so she thought it would be easier if I wasn't at graduation. I asked her why she didn't just tell me about Mark's behavior from the beginning. Why not let me know what was happening so we could deal with it together? She got defensive immediately. "You would have made it into a bigger deal than it was," she said. "You would have wanted to confront him or something." And there it was. She had decided for both of us how I would react, without ever giving me the chance to actually react. She had written the whole script in her head where I was the jealous, controlling boyfriend who couldn't handle her having male friends. But here is the thing that really got me. I asked her directly, "Did anything happen between you and Mark?" She hesitated. For just a second. But I caught it. Then she said, "We kissed. Once at the graduation party, but it didn't mean anything, and I realized immediately that I had made a mistake. One kiss. At the graduation party, the party I wasn't invited to because my presence would have been awkward. I just sat there for a minute, letting that sink in. Then I asked her when exactly this kiss happened. She said it was late in the evening, after most people had left the party. So let me get this timeline straight. She excluded me from her graduation ceremony because it would be awkward with Mark there. Then she went to the graduation party where she kissed him. Then she posted that photo of them together with the caption about how she couldn't have done it without him. And now she was sitting across from me, calling it a mistake, like it was something that just happened to her instead of a choice she made. I told her I appreciated her honesty, but that I didn't think we had anything else to talk about. She started crying then, saying that Mark had misled her and that she had realized he wasn't who she thought he was. She said she missed me, missed us, missed what we had. I asked her what specifically she missed. She couldn't answer. She just kept saying she had made a mistake and that she wanted to try again. The whole conversation felt like she was reading from a script she had rehearsed, like she had decided that if she said the right words in the right order, I had just forgive her and we would go back to how things were. But you know what really struck me? She never once asked how I was doing. Never asked if I was okay, if I had been hurt, how this whole thing had affected me. It was all about her realization, her mistakes, her feelings, her wanting another chance. When I told her I didn't think that was going to happen, she got angry. Really angry. She said I was being stubborn and holding grudges, that if I really loved her, I would be willing to work through this. That is when I realized something that probably should have been obvious from the beginning. Sam doesn't actually know who I am. She knows the version of me that accommodated her, that supported her financially, that didn't make waves when she started pulling away. But she doesn't know the version of me that has boundaries and self-respect. I told her that I did love her, past tense, but that love doesn't mean accepting disrespect. I said I hoped she figured out what she really wanted, but that it wasn't going to be with me. She left the coffee shop crying, and I haven't heard from her since. But here is where it gets interesting. Remember how I mentioned my friend Eli? Well, apparently word travels fast in our social circle. About a week after our coffee meetup, Eli told me he had been hearing things. Turns out Mark ghosted Sam about 2 weeks after graduation, just completely disappeared, stopped answering her texts, unfriended her on social media. The whole thing. And here is the kicker. According to Eli's girlfriend, who knows, Sam's roommate Caitlin, Mark had apparently been planning this whole thing for months. See, Mark's family has connections in the psychology field. His dad runs some kind of consulting firm in Dallas. And Sam's dad works in corporate HR for a big company here in Austin. Mark had been working on getting Sam to introduce him to her father so he could get a recommendation for a job with her dad's company. The whole senior project thing, the pursuit, the graduation photo, all of it was apparently part of Mark's plan to get close to Sam's family. Once he got what he wanted, the introduction and the recommendation, he didn't need her anymore. So Sam didn't just throw away our relationship for someone who actually cared about her. She threw it away for someone who was using her as a networking opportunity. I would like to say I felt vindicated when I heard this, but honestly, I just felt sad. Sad that Sam had such poor judgment about people. Sad that she had been willing to hurt me for someone who was manipulating her. Sad that she still seemed to be learning these lessons the hard way. Caitlin also told Eli's girlfriend that Sam had been struggling financially since graduation. Apparently, her parents had pulled back on their support now that she had finished school, expecting her to be more independent. But the job market is tough, and without Mark's family connections that she thought she would have, she has been having trouble finding work in her field. Last week, my boss offered me a short-term project in Dallas. Better pay, chance to work with some cutting-edge technology, and honestly, a fresh start. I accepted immediately. I am loading up my car this weekend to drive up there, and I am excited. For the first time in months, I am excited about something. I have been running regularly, sleeping better, even started reading again. All those things I would kind of let slide while I was trying to manage Sam's stress and emotions. It is funny how much clearer everything becomes when you step away from a situation. I can see now that I had been walking on eggshells for months, trying to be supportive without being controlling, trying to give her space without seeming distant. I had been so focused on being the perfect boyfriend that I had forgotten to ask whether she was being a good girlfriend to me. The answer, as it turns out, was no. Update 2. I know it has been a while since my last update, but I figured you would want to know how things turned out. A lot has happened since I moved to Dallas, and I am in a completely different headspace now. First, the good news. The job in Dallas turned into a permanent position with a significant promotion. I am now a senior mechanical engineer on a team that designs renewable energy systems. It is challenging work, exactly the kind of stuff I went to school hoping to do someday. I found a great apartment in Deep Ellum, started rock climbing at a local gym, and I have been dating someone new for about 3 months now. Her name is Riley. She is a graphic designer, and the contrast between her and Sam is pretty stark. Riley is direct about what she wants, includes me in her plans, and treats our relationship like a partnership instead of a performance. It has been refreshing to be with someone who doesn't make me guess what they are thinking or feeling. But this isn't really about Riley. This is about what happened last month when Sam reached out again. I got an email from her completely out of the blue. The subject line was just closure, and honestly, I almost deleted it without reading it. But curiosity got the better of me. The email was long, like really long. Multiple paragraphs of what felt like a therapy session that I hadn't signed up for. She told me about how the last 6 months had been a journey of self-discovery, and how she had been working with a counselor to understand her patterns in relationships. She admitted that Mark had been using her, which I already knew from Eli, but she went into detail about how he had manipulated her into thinking that their connection was special, how he had convinced her that I was holding her back from her potential. She said he had made her feel like choosing him over me was actually her standing up for herself. Reading that made me angry all over again. Not at Mark, but at Sam. Because even in her apology, she was making herself the victim. Mark manipulated her. Sure. But she had made the choice to exclude me from her graduation. She had made the choice to kiss him. She had made the choice to prioritize his feelings over mine. The email went on to explain how her life had fallen apart after Mark disappeared. She had been counting on his family connections to help her find work, but obviously that didn't pan out. Her relationship with her parents had become strained because they felt she had been making poor choices. She had had to move back home temporarily because she couldn't afford rent on her own. Then came the part that really got to me. She wrote about how she had kept one of my old hoodies, and how she had wear it when she was feeling lost or alone. She said it reminded her of how safe and supported she used to feel in our relationship. She said she had realized that I was the only person who had ever shown up for her, unconditionally. The whole email felt like an attempt to rewrite history, like she was trying to cast our relationship as this pure, supportive thing that she would foolishly walked away from, instead of acknowledging that she would actively chosen to disrespect and exclude me. She ended the email by saying she didn't expect me to respond, but that she wanted me to know she was sorry and that she hoped someday I might forgive her. She said she had learned a lot about herself and that she was working on becoming someone worthy of the love I had given her. I read the whole thing twice. Then I archived it without responding. Here is the thing I have realized about closure. It is not something someone else can give you. Sam wanted to send me that email so she could feel better about what she had done, but closure isn't her apology or her explanation or even her acknowledgement of what went wrong. Closure is me deciding that I don't need her to validate my experience or make me feel better about how things ended. I already knew she had treated me badly. I already knew I had made the right choice by leaving. Her email didn't tell me anything. I didn't already know, except that she was still more focused on her own feelings than on understanding the impact of her actions. The funny thing is, I didn't feel angry after reading it. I didn't feel sad or nostalgic or tempted to reach out. I just felt nothing. Like she was someone I used to know who had had some problems and was still working through them. That is when I realized I would actually moved on, not just from Sam, but from the version of myself that had needed her validation or approval. The version of myself that had been willing to accept being treated as an option instead of a priority. Life in Dallas has been good to me. I have work that challenges me, friends who respect me, and someone who actually wants to build something with me instead of just taking from me. I run along the Trinity River most mornings before work, and I have started playing guitar again, something I had given up when I was trying to be available for Sam whenever she needed support. I know this might sound cheesy, but I am genuinely happy. Not just content or okay, but actually happy. And I don't think I could have gotten here if I had stayed and tried to work things out with Sam. Some relationships end because people grow apart or circumstances change, but ours ended because Sam showed me exactly who she was when it mattered most, and I finally believed her. Final update: I was back in Austin for my friend Eli's wedding. Riley came with me, and it was her first time meeting my old friends. Everyone loved her, which felt really good. She fit right in with the group, and seeing her interact with people who had known me during the Sam years made me realize how much I had changed. The wedding was beautiful. Eli and his now wife Sarah had this outdoor ceremony at a venue outside the city. It was the kind of day that makes you believe in good things, you know. Everyone was happy. The weather was perfect, and for most of the evening, I completely forgot that Sam existed, until I saw her sitting 2 tables away from us during dinner. She was alone, wearing a navy dress that I recognized from our time together. She looked okay, healthier than she had at that coffee shop a year ago, but there was something different about her, something smaller, if that makes sense. When our eyes met across the room, she gave me this hopeful little smile. I nodded politely and turned back to my table. Riley noticed and asked if I knew her. I said yes briefly and left it at that. Riley didn't push for details, which is one of the many reasons I love her. The rest of dinner passed without incident. Sam didn't approach our table, and I didn't feel any urge to go talk to her. It was like seeing an old coworker at the grocery store. You acknowledge each other, but you don't necessarily need to catch up after the reception wound down. Riley and I were walking to our car when I heard someone call my name. I turned around, and there was Sam, walking toward us across the parking lot. Landon, she said when she got closer. You look happy. I am glad things worked out for you. Riley squeezed my hand and said she would wait in the car. She is good at reading situations like that. Sam and I stood there for a minute, just looking at each other. She seemed nervous, but not desperate like she had been at the coffee shop. More resigned, maybe. How are you doing? I asked, because it seemed like the polite thing to say. I am okay, she said. I got a job at a counseling center in Round Rock. It is not exactly what I pictured when I was in school, but it is good work, meaningful. I told her I was glad to hear that, and I meant it. I wasn't angry with her anymore. I wasn't hurt or disappointed or any of the things I had felt for so long. I was just neutral. I heard you moved to Dallas, she said, that you got promoted. Yeah, it has been good. And Riley seems lovely. I looked back at the car where Riley was waiting patiently, scrolling through her phone. She is. Sam followed my gaze and nodded. She is lucky, she said quietly. I am the lucky one, I replied. And I meant that too. We stood there for another moment, and I could see Sam working up to saying something else. Finally, she looked at me directly and said, I know this probably doesn't matter now, but I really am sorry. For all of it. I handled everything badly, and you deserved better. It was the first time she had apologized without making excuses or trying to explain her behavior. Just a straight acknowledgement that she had treated me poorly. I appreciate that, I said. And I hope you are happy, Sam. I really do. She smiled then, but it was sad around the edges. I am working on it, she said. It takes longer than you would think to figure out who you are when you are not trying to be what someone else wants. I understood what she meant, even though I think she had it backward. I had spent so much time trying to be what she wanted that I had forgotten who I was. It wasn't until I stopped trying to accommodate her that I had found myself again. Take care of yourself, I said, and started walking toward the car. Landon, she called after me. I turned back. Thank you, she said, for everything you did for me. I know I never said that enough when it mattered. I nodded and got in the car. Riley asked if I was okay as we drove away, and I realized I was more than okay. I was at peace. The drive back to Dallas gave me time to think about everything that had happened. 3 years ago, if someone had told me that Sam would cheat on me and I would end up thanking her for it, I would have thought they were crazy. But sitting in that car with Riley, heading back to a life I had built for myself, I felt grateful. Not grateful for the betrayal or the pain, but grateful for the clarity. Sam showed me what I wouldn't accept anymore, and that knowledge had led me to something so much better. Sometimes walking away isn't losing, it is finally choosing yourself.